all you rockin' people out there. My name is Scott Churchson, alongside Mr. Obi Spencer and Mr. Brandon Kay. JD Walker will be on in just a couple of minutes. And welcome to the Sports Den on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit here. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. When you download on iOS or Android, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Anyway, how you guys doing?
I'm great.
Doing all right.
Good. We were actually just before the show started trying to discuss Brandon's height to confirm that he is not 6'27".
No.
Yeah, no,
I'm not dunking anytime soon.
No.
Nor do I see any growth spurts in my future.
Speaking of dunking, I have a feeling that a certain Mr. K and Mr. Obi Spencer will be sort of, shall we say, dunking on a player who just re-signed a one-year deal with the Nets. See what I did there?
I do.
Kyrie Irving basically has opted for his deal. He will be making $36.5 million plus next year in his one year opt. And Brandon, pretty sure you might have some thoughts on that, do you, sir?
Just the point of opting in to the contract, that's not what's driving me crazy. It's this saga. This is why we say NBA is a reality TV show. Because this is the type of stuff that happens in reality TV. I mean, when you have a sport like basketball where it's so star-driven, it is so microscopically focused on all of these major stars, you're going to get dramatic issues like, you might not even get dramatic issues like this. This is crazy. This is, and this seems to be every summer where Kyrie is going to be, who's his teammates going to be, who he wants to team up with, and it's getting so tiring. I mean, this is a yearly thing, and he just never seems to be happy. I mean, either that or it's just he just wants a revolving door of changing things that, frankly, you can't happen when you're in a team sport. Go play golf, go play tennis, go box. If you want to do these things when you're in a sport where it's just you and only affecting you, nothing to say about it. God bless. But when you're in a sport that I love so deeply, and I mean, there's other, Westbrook just opted in. John Wall just went to the Clippers. There are other things in the NBA that we could be talking about, but we have to find ourselves talking about Kyrie again. And look, is he going to be there for the whole, the graphic down below, whole season, half season, 10-day contract? I mean, I don't even know anymore. I really don't. It's just, if Kyrie could be his own individual franchise, if he could just be the Brooklyn Irvings or the New York Kyries, he would do that. He would do that. And it's, look, today he is technically a Net. And we'll see what the future and this season unfolds.
Earlier last week, or late last week, I should say, I was at the Barclays Center, and it's all KD all the time. There's no Kyrie there, and there's a reason for that. But I'm always going to go when the employee beats the company. I'm all for it. And look, he didn't get what he wanted, but he got $38 million. This is a guy who doesn't play basketball. He's a basketball player who doesn't play basketball. And I want to be mad. I want to agree with everything Brandon said, because there's nothing he said that's wrong. Except I'm always going to be like, hey, good on this guy. Good on him. He's like, I'm not going to take $6 million to actually, go someplace where the guy's going to make me play, because if he goes there, they're going to put LeBron's going to put his foot on his throat and make him play and not take his BS. He's like, I'll just take $38 million. I can't find a place to get a max sign and trade deal. So good on him. I want to be mad. I want to be like, he's what's wrong with sports, but actually he's what's right. Good for him. He was good enough, long enough to get this kind of deal where he's able to put somebody over the barrel and be like, I didn't play half a season last year because I didn't want to get a shot. I didn't play a half a season the year before because I didn't want to show up, literally. I didn't play a half a season before that because the guy I came here to play with, he was out with an injury. So I want to be mad at Kyrie, but I can't be. KD, he should be fuming with the situation. And if he tries to work his way out, I wouldn't be surprised. But Kyrie did what Kyrie should have done. Take $38 million and let the Nets deal with his headache.
And that's exactly the point on this. I mean, the payday that comes out of something like this for a guy who played, I believe, 20 games, what was it, 20, 54, and 29, I think, across the last three. So
he's played as many games as his jersey number, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, about 100 games roughly in the last three seasons. And he pulls in $37 million this year. So you look at a Nets team that's got, this going on with Kyrie and all the problems that happened with that last year. Then you have Ben Simmons and that debacle going on. You have James Harden, who you traded for at one point, who wanted out. There is unbridled, unmitigated chaos going on in Nets Nation right now. And, from an outside, if you're a fan of the franchise, it's killing you. But if you're watching from the outside, and you're another team in the East, preferably a team that's doing, better, I'll throw Miami into the mix just because of the fact you're Brandon for you. Or, you know what, even, I'll throw the 76ers here. You guys watching this from the sideline, you're just sitting there just like, you know what? Just take a drink, just enjoy the show, and keep laughing.
This is like the New Jersey Nets all over again, right? They moved out of Brooklyn, but they left the jersey in them, right? And so everybody from New Jersey who was like, I'm not going to be a fan anymore. Maybe I'll pick up the Knicks. Maybe I'll pick up just, LeBron, wherever he's at. Whatever they decided, which you have the right to do anytime, especially though when a team moves, they are loving this. They're like, oh, nice try. Now you're spending money. It's not like you're not spending money and doing poorly, which then you're like, at least the owners are making some. But you are giving this guy $38 million a year. And like you say, half a season, if you're lucky, that's what he wants to put up. That's if he doesn't get injured. The Celtics fans, they're loving this too. Like the only fans that aren't loving it are the Bucks fans, and they're enjoying it.
I think there are three aspects to this whole situation. We have the Kyrie situation, which it is what it is. Then, and you've mentioned it, Scott, the Nets. When are we going to hold the Nets as a franchise accountable? He didn't look. Kyrie was still Kyrie, in his world, we'll say, but he still wasn't, jerking the franchise around in Boston. He certainly wasn't in Cleveland. The Nets are a problem in this because they are enabling it. So you're either allowing it, tolerating it, or somewhere in between. And that's where the Nets are. And Ernesto, our great colleague, he's a big diehard Nets fan, and I'm talking to him, throughout this whole saga, and it's like he's so done with it. And I can't even blame him. I feel for it. The other day the stories came out that he's got this wish list, and he named Miami, Philly, Dallas, New York, the Nets, and I think the Lakers were the other team. And I sat there. I'm like, no. And I probably said no legitimately like 20, 25 times because I don't even want to be close to Kyrie. I don't even want to be touching with a 6-foot social distance pole because he's so worried about that. I mean, it's really, you mentioned as Philly fan and Miami Heat fans sitting back and laugh. There was a time where the Sixers almost could have had Kyrie. Like there was some time where it's like, damn, like, are we going to actually get Kyrie? Like, and I think, with the Nets, and then the third aspect is Kevin Durant. Not that Kevin Durant is at fault, but we see a guy like LeBron who we can joke and call him the GM all the time, but at least you can't knock the fact that he's doing the due diligence and trying to put Kevin Durant, like, you could be doing something else in this to try and alleviate the situation, and you're kind of like, trying to stay away from it, and I think that's not the smart way to go. But everybody, Kyrie and the Nets especially, there's however you want to divvy up the blame, but the Nets have to be equally responsible in this situation too.
So yeah, like you and I have said many times, I think the Nets' problem isn't management. I think many basketball teams would have the same problem. Their issue is they didn't put somebody in the locker room. Like we've talked about it before. We know He's played with Marcus Smart, who takes no guff. I'll use the word we're allowed to say on the show. We know LeBron, he doesn't just GM his team, he runs his team. So, again, and we've said it many times, Durant doesn't run a team, and he doesn't like to be on a team that's run. Like, that's why he probably left Draymond, because Draymond was running that team, and Durant was feeling like, hey, I'm the best player here. And Draymond's like, I don't care. I'm the player coach. Get your butt in line. And we saw it many times during the 2 years they were there, despite the two rings. So the 3 years he was there, despite the 2 rings, whatever. So, yeah, I think the Nets' problem is they capitulated to Durant and said, oh, no, we won't get a guy. Whoever that guy is, that kind of anchors that team and says, this is a basketball team. This is a professional organization. This is not your backyard team. And so all that to say, I agree that it's on the Nets, and I think it's on the Nets for not getting that guy. It's on Kyrie for needing that guy. He should, instead of being that guy. And
he thinks he doesn't need a head coach, remember?
Yeah, right. If you don't need a head coach, then you need – but even LeBron's not saying I don't need a head coach. LeBron's saying I need Spoelstra, and Spoelstra ain't going anywhere. But,
LeBron would say, I'm the coach, before he'd say, we don't need a coach.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there's a difference.
That's the difference. Game. Right.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations, Kyrie. You can laugh and walk to the bank and strut, whatever you want to do. You played us. Congratulations.
But like I said, in this case here, I mean, ownership paid it. He had the when you're in a situation like that, it was his opt-in choice. And I mean, they tried. Apparently, there was some talk on the table about an extension there. Supposedly, there was some talk about the Lakers apparently being somewhat officially interested. But I think most teams, like I said, you notice I'm putting that in quotes there. But when it came down to it, it was the Nets versus the Nets. And how much are they going to have to do? So in this case, I think this is safe to say it's going to be his last year. He's going to be out after that point. But you know what? For this year, he'll be $36+ million richer.
Yep.
I know. It's like to live, right? So, yep. All right. So this, is, of course, as always, is the Sports Den. I'm Scott Churchson alongside Mr. Obi Spencer and Mr. Brandon Kay. I want to toss you something your way, if you don't mind. So if I could pull this up here. Let's see if I can get this. All right. See how well this is going to come in. I might have to do something. I might have to do a little bit of magic with this. But I came across this morning. This is something that basically you guys can see that, I think, pretty well, right?
Yeah.
This is something that I stumbled on earlier today. If you look, basically, this was the cable telecast from June 29th. I'm sorry, June 19th. Correction, June 19th. On the cable side of things, not primetime, not Fox, all the rest of that. Now, forgetting for a second the fact that Naked and Afraid and 90 Day Fiancé ruled this Sunday night, something very interesting popped out here. If you look at the ratings for number 3 and number 4, both of them granted are ESPN, but the College World Series playoffs between Oklahoma and Notre Dame did significantly better than the White Sox versus the Astros. And I find that curious, and I wanted to kind of get your thoughts a little bit to see what you guys feel about that, and whether or not if there's a sign of things to come and where things are going to go with that. Is that something we can expect going forward?
I think that is a great sign for Major League Baseball, believe it or not. Because if people are watching the College World Series, it means they are interested in the sport. And the College World Series is, I believe, those were winner go home games. Mm-hmm. So it's attracting viewers to watch the sport. And then when it's over, they're likely to move on to Major League Baseball because they enjoy the sport. So I'm not surprised because of the fact that it was the College World Series. It was heavily promoted during ESPN, so ESPN viewers probably were more interested in seeing the outcome of that than the actual random Major League Baseball game. Mm-hmm. And I think Major League Baseball can feel good knowing that the product still has viewers. Now they just have to get them to watch theirs. But there's still an appetite for baseball. Add those up together, right? And you're clearing the 90 Day Fiancé hurdle.
Well, yeah, leaving out, like I said, for a second, 90 Day Fiance, Naked and Afraid, or if you go down to the 10 o'clock or the later time slot, I love A Mama's Boy. By the way, TLC, and just point out that TLC is just crushing it right now. I mean, they had 2 runs of 90 Day Fiance Pillow Talk, which almost
What the hell is Pillow
baseball.
Talk?
Let's leave that out of the equation. Hilarious though that may be. But you think actually this is a good sign for the future of Major League Baseball, considering the fact that 2 college teams killed Sunday Night Baseball?
If it was a random weekend, if it was a random game, I'd say, oh boy. But as the World Series, it was talked up a lot, especially the Oklahoma thing after the softball, which was fantastic. Are they going to be able to do it? I think there was a lot of buzz, and I think it's a good thing because it then says if I'm going to watch this baseball, I'm willing to watch baseball. Now, what am I going to watch for the next 3 months before football starts?
Now, in this case, like you said, it's just like the NCAA March Madness. It's a winner go home type setup, so every single pitch is dramatic as heck. Unlike Major League Baseball or a lot of playoffs where you have a 7-game series, that single elimination adds so much intensity to everything. By the way, JD, welcome aboard. I knew you were a couple minutes late. That's okay. But I want to get your input on this a little bit. What are you thinking here? Between number 3 and number 4, forgetting, like I said, 1 and 2 here.
Yeah, no, I think let's leave MLB out of it because I think the Sunday night is a pretty established program. You had at least one good team in the Astros. Chicago is still on the fence. So I kind of just throw that up there as default. But the fact that the College World Series, and you mentioned softball, the World Series had been booming this season, and I think ties into maybe not fully, but I think part of it ties into some of the outpour of what happened with baseball over the last few months and stuff like that. I think you kind of have that college basketball feel where it's just about the game. It's not about, even with the NIL, it's not about contracts and all that stuff. So I think that's part of it. I think you had the quality, first of all, the quality of play I thought was great. And going over to the softball side of it, I think some weird part of it is, if you remember, on UCLA, they have Tom Brady's niece, and he was talking that team up like crazy. So I think that really opened up another channel of an audience to at least college softball for this season. And I think it's going to carry along to seasons to come and years to come. And I think it's great. There's no reason why college baseball and softball shouldn't be popular, right? They're not like they're playing sports that aren't popular in general in this country. And obviously everything is dominated by the pro stuff and in football, basketball, college too. But baseball and softball, the quality is there. And in softball, we saw Oklahoma with a historic season and stuff like that, having an all-time softball player too. So I think there were a lot of narratives driving this season for both softball and baseball in college.
I think also with the Oklahoma softball team being the juggernaut that they were, that got a lot of curiosity factor. And as you guys mentioned, this is a winner go home game versus a meaningless middle of the season regular season game between two teams that, while they're not small market, they're not the big behemoths that you normally see on Sunday Night Baseball. If it's not a New York, Boston, or LA team, usually ratings are kind of meh for those games to begin with. It is promising seeing the college baseball and college softball World Series popularity, but also that also at the same time is both good and bad, because it emphasizes one of baseball's biggest issues, which is they are a regional sport, not a national sport. College baseball and softball, while they are getting more interests, Only the fans of the teams that are good are the ones that are really engaged, which is teams concentrated primarily in the south and west and the south and west of the country. Nobody from the Northeast does much on the national baseball scene anymore because
Rutgers got robbed.
Rutgers is the exception. Rutgers had a very good season, but they still, I think they lost in the Big Ten championship. So that's the thing. There's only one dedicated slot for each conference. The Northeast and Midwest leagues are the equivalent of the mid majors in college basketball, the one bid leagues. Like the Big East is only getting one team in. Same with the Big Ten, and so on. Whereas the SEC and Pac-12 are dominating.
So, Scott, I'm glad you brought this, and I'm going to take this to where I wanted to go with Major League Baseball anyway, because I saw a meme. I know I pronounce it wrong. You guys always laugh at me. Where I did not double check this, so I'm going to ask you to double check this as I talk. But it said that Game 6 of last year's World Series had 15 million, while Game 6 of this year's NBA Final had 14.8. So that the baseball number actually in the Game 6 had exceeded the Game 6 basketball number. I don't know if that was correct information, so I present it with a grain of salt. But you combine that with how good your Yankees are right now. The excitement of that weekend of that 4-game series. Throw in a good baseball brawl. You got no other sports. People are excited knowing the game's going to get changed. I think baseball don't trust MLB advantage of all this, but this is a prime opportunity to go and get viewers in and de-regionalize, get everybody in this Houston Astros team. They should be playing them up more as the bad guy, despite how great their pitching is. They need to be like, look at the Yankees, another bad team. Figure out how to make some storylines, get us excited. Baseball has the summer. Baseball always gets the summer. They need to go ahead. This is a summer they can take advantage of. That MLB marketing team has a lot to do. And Aaron Judge has more than just the Yankees to carry this summer. And that was the point I wanted to make through our chats. I hope you pick one of these guys to either agree or disagree with me.
Well, that's up to them. If they want to agree, maybe some.
No, I think that's spot on. I think it's all part of it. Yeah, it's with the Mets too being good. I think the New York, the LA situation too. It's really. I feel like baseball is weirdly like in a bigger spotlight than it had been in previous few years. And Obi, you mentioned the point of the Astros. They were that Sunday night game. I get that we're a couple seasons removed now from the big issue, but they still feel like like there's some, I don't know, not dirty. That's not what I'm trying to say, but there's some like ruggedness to that team in terms of the way the fan base of baseball looks at them. And I think MLB and ESPN and these media outlets can play them up like that. And to this day, I will go to my grave saying they missed the majority of the pushback from the cheating scandal because how it lined up with COVID and nobody being fans.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why this series against the Yankees, have they gotten a hit yet? I mean, it's 4:30. Have they gotten right? Oh, they did. Okay. No, I'm kidding, but
hey, they got that hit. No,
but that was so many people were focused on that series, forgetting the fact that this season alone, both teams are atop the American League. But just this whole storyline that is now, 4 seasons building now, almost 5. They are starting to pick up some NBA style narratives where it's very player heavy, and I think I'm all about this baseball season right now.
I agree.
Go ahead, please.
I agree to a point. Because another thing I just realized looking at that ratings list before is what was not on that list, and I would like to see the comparison. It wasn't on there because it was broadcast and not cable, but that was also all of these games were up against Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Mhm.
So I would like to see the hockey numbers related to the baseball numbers. Another curiosity where you mentioned Game 6 of the NBA Finals versus Game 6 of the World Series last year. The 18 to 49 demo numbers for both of those are probably wildly different because of the average age of baseball fans versus versus basketball fans. And the other what going forward, especially with the upcoming Apple TV stream deal, I'm curious to see how much MLS will take out of that summer pie, because I think there will be a lot of people that are saying, yeah, baseball is boring. I want something else to watch. So soccer might pick up a few more viewers that way. I know it's cliche that we've been waiting for decades for soccer to take off in the U.S., but I think that with some of the general disgust still in bitter taste with some fans over the market for the ones that are from markets that have no hope, which there are many. There's also a good portion of the country that hates any and all things related to New York. So having the Mets and Yankees being on top of their respective leagues does not appeal to large portions of the country, while overall the ratings look better because of the big market. There's a lot of potential for hate watching or just turning it off one way or the other. And Houston has the, as you mentioned, Brandon, with the getting away from the bulk of the punishment by fans for the cheating scandal.
Or a lot of the visceral.
Yeah, and the Astros have also, because I just thought of the rallying cry for the Eagles a few years back when they were on their Super Bowl run was "No one likes us, we don't care." The Houston Astros and their fans have adopted that same ethos. Scott, you said you had the hockey numbers to compare.
I do, yes. All the way through for this season, they averaged 2.31 million across the board. Game 2 was the lowest at 1.7, and Game 6, when the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, was 2.89. So 2.4.
So that beat everybody on this list.
It did beat everybody on the list, but also was primetime and ABC.
Yes, it's broadcast versus cable would.
Yeah, that might have some bearing on that. Again, I harken back to the fact that 90 Day Fiancé pulled in 1.7 million on that, which is, insane. But the fact that almost potentially beat out the NHL Stanley Cup Finals is amazing in its own right. But yeah, the NHL Stanley Cup did okay. I don't think personally ESPN is crazy about those numbers. I think obviously they may in some internal circles actually be somewhat embarrassed by them, and kind of may regret having taken that deal, possibly. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is I think you had mentioned the whole, the cheating scandal and all that kind of stuff, and I was going to keep my mouth shut on that for a minute. But here in the New York area, and this makes very little sense to all of us, Carlos Beltran, who was arguably one of the people who spearheaded this whole cheating scandal, he is now a color commentator for the Yankees on the Yes Network. JD, I said this to you the other day. So when the Yankees played the Astros for 3 games, there was a real weird blend what was going on there. That Carlos Beltran was in his first year as a color commentator for the Yankees and broadcasting for the team that cheated their way to a World Series and beat the Yankees in the process. Michael Kay did have some pointed questions about how that whole thing transpired and how he personally feels about it. And Beltran was more than a little uncomfortable with the questioning, stuttering out the fact that they'll have to live with it for the rest of their lives. But because they also got paid really well, I'm sure they can live with it pretty well for the rest of their life. So I don't think the Yankees really hold the grudge anymore about all of that because they hired, like I said, one of the ringleaders for this whole thing.
They may have. It's interesting. I'm still fascinated by that, but I'm also wondering if the Yankees took pity on him and offered him a job, because they take care of their own. Even it's conflicting because although Beltran is known for being the face of Lefair trash can, he's still a former Yankee. And Yes Network takes care of their own, as seen by the revolving doors of retired former players that have rolled through there. I'm just amazed that in what I'm sure is an impressive Rolodex of former Yankees working in media, that they landed on Carlos Beltran.
That makes no sense to me either. Also, because if you actually listen to him, he is not comfortable yet. Not to say he couldn't be, but have you ever seen players turn color commentators and they are so far out of their element you almost feel uncomfortable listening to them?
Yeah, there's been quite a few
Jason Witten went on ESPN Monday Night Football.
Yeah. I mean, to basically use another case in this case, and nobody remembers this much, but if you remember when Dennis Miller did Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for that 2-year experiment there. I mean, talk about being out of your element. But it was, at the time, ABC trying to be edgy. That worked out well. But Carlos Beltran, like I said, I saw something on the Yankees subreddit yesterday. It said, make a comment about baseball, players or anything, and I will respond as Carlos Beltran would have. And that's what's on Twitter. That is what's on the subreddit right now for the Yankees. Doesn't matter what it is. This show is the Sports Den. The Sports Den basically is a good show.
I think. Look, I think Yankees, especially now that we're at this point in time, how far removed we are from the situation. I don't think the Yankees are in a position anymore where they can be mad. Or you offered him a job. Like, I mean, at that, we're not saying that you were involved, as a franchise, but you can't offer him a job and then kind of, really treat him the way you do. I thought the addressing the obvious elephant in the room was unnecessary at this point in time. They're going to play, later in the season, next season. There could have been a time and a place to address this for him, for Michael. Not. I don't think during the game.
Michael K just put him on the spot.
Yeah, it's
during the. But see, that's K being K.
Yeah, that's what he does.
He's done stuff on air to just provoke. When he took over, when his show actually took over for Francesa on the Yes Network. Francesa and the Fan used to play on the Yes Network.
Yeah.
And he took over. Francesa used to drink Diet Coke during his shows. Fine. Okay, fine. But the first time that Michael K had the show on the Yes Network, you saw him deliberately pick up a Diet Coke on camera, bring in a garbage can, and just do this in his first 2 minutes to basically really let everyone know he's in charge now. And that's, like I said, Michael K. is,
wow, threw a Coke bottle. Ooh, what a power move!
I remember the kerfuffle about that. It was just,
but that's why the pettiness.
I'd rather listen to than ESPN.
I'm missing you with that. It's so petty. It's almost immature.
We are deep in New York sports right now. I think we need to climb out a little bit, Scott.
Yes.
Can we go to another conversation about New York sports and throw in some Philadelphia as well and the
union.
So I know you two gentlemen are covering those teams and everything, and that's great. And you guys had a little conversation. I think, talk about hate watching. I think for Major League Soccer, the fact that there seems to be a genuine rivalry between the New York FC and the Union, and it's the only true Philadelphia-New York sports rivalry, all due respect to the Mets and the Phillies, both teams hate Atlanta more. I think it may be one of the best things for Major League Soccer to get that kind of eyes on for those two markets. And I know Scott and you and I were talking about briefly before the show, before the other guys got there. So sorry to steal your segue, but guys, I'll let you run.
JD, I'll give it to you first, sir.
Well, it's interesting to me because for years, ever since the beginning, when the Philadelphia Union first started, they considered the Red Bulls their biggest rival. But because I went to a Union Red Bulls game, I believe it was back in 2019, and that was very intense. This one surpassed it. There's genuine bad blood between these teams. there's so much hate for NYCFC in the Philly market, as a certain writer tried to venture into the lion's den on Reddit and got live.
We can get into that one in its own due course. But I couldn't actually play the video on it for legal reasons and everything like that.
Right.
JD talked about it earlier. But screenshots, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. But as you can see, Rushing, the trainer down there, this was the second time that he shoved Nicholas Acevedo of the of NYCFC away from his player.
Yeah.
He actually got up, squatted, and shoved the player twice, resulting in, ironically enough, a red card. Which, first of all, the fact that a trainer, a coaching staff member got a red card, that wasn't a coach, as bizarre as anything. But yeah, he's out of the next game. But it shows the amount of bad blood between these two teams. That's centered back from December, and the Eastern Conference final that happened there. JD, as someone who is now covering the Philadelphia Union to a greater degree, give me your thoughts on this one, sir.
Well, for one thing, Acevedo and later Castellanos, who were getting in the trainer's face during all of this, which is why he's shoving them away, because the players are crowding over them, and they're repeatedly getting in his face. So the trainer reacted and pushed him back, saying, "Hey, go away." I partly put this on the officials in this game for not getting control of this situation sooner, and the whole rest of the game was an absolute mess from an officiating standpoint, back and forth. I believe Acevedo, I think, should have gotten a yellow card as well among the many that were issued in this incident, because the setup to this was that there was a Union player injured and the trainer's working on him, but the NLCFC player Acevedo is coming in and is trying to yank his jersey, like, "Oh, stop faking, get up." And the trainer's saying, "Dude, back off." And there's a saying down here. There's a saying that's popular down here, which the clean version of it is "screw around and find out." And Acevedo was about to find out, and it took Jacob Glesnes, the number 5 on the right there, bear hugging Paul Rushing and holding him back.
And Rushing's a big dude.
Look
too,
at this guy.
You want to mess with.
Also, how dumb do you have to be to screw with a trainer that looks like this guy?
Dude, yeah,
he looks like somebody that you find at a local bar down in Delco, and you do not want to mess with him. Or bouncer at your local bar.
I would say
he's probably in a hardcore band back in the day. Like,
yeah,
like, really, Acevedo, you're going to mess with, not only just to mess with a trainer, but mess with this guy.
It's like, did you ever see Johnny Van Zant, the lead singer of Leonard Skinner? Now he looks kind of like that dude.
Yeah, without the hair.
Without the hair, granted, but
right. But just the whole situation was chaos, and in the press box, we were all confused, like, wait, what is going on? And then the crowd absolutely went nuts cheering for this guy after the red card. Philly has a new sports hero. And his name is Paul Rushing.
Oh my, yes. Screw that up. Hang on a second.
Yeah. I think, this isn't surprising. And I think, like, I'm no MLS fan by any stretch. You guys know that. But I do think it's good for the sport. I would say there really isn't a city in the country that its sports teams embrace the nature of the city more than Philly.
That's Paul Rushing.
I would say,
I want to point that out.
I mean, come on, like,
that is your athletic trainer going, that you're picking a fight with when you're like 5'6", 140.
Like,
you just got off the rugby court to play soccer.
Really, man?
Right. Boston, New York has their more moments where they embrace the city, but Philly, their teams, it's all Philly nature all the time, and that there even bleeds down to the trainers.
Yeah,
and like you said, the crowd went crazy for it, embrace it, and I think honestly it could be one of these stupid things that could just lift a team and just propel them to have a couple of knock off a few games, get into some momentum. I don't know what Philly's standing situation are, but
they're now for after this win, Philly is now first in the Eastern Conference, and NYCFC, I believe, fell to fourth.
Yes.
Ooh.
Just to
I bet you. I'm not really going to pay it. I'll pay attention vicariously through you guys, but I'll say Philly doesn't give up first place the rest of the season.
They may not.
It certainly sparked a crowd because the crowd went absolutely bonkers. You know, so we were confused because the crowd was so loud we could not hear any of the announcements of what happened.
And what was great about it, it was again, I mean, in this case, where we were. You know, we can see the supporter section, which is the section that they give, you know, the road visiting fans. They give them their own section, which is every stadium does. It's kind of nice, but you see this little pocket, this little like pie space, you know, of NYCFC fans, and they're sitting there like this, just
frozen
and being like, okay, is something going to hit me? Because it just got so angry. All of this stemmed from December last year. And I agree with Philadelphia here, when Philadelphia ended up losing the Eastern Conference Finals because of the fact that they had 11 players out with COVID. NYCFC had their leading goal scorer out too, so I'm going to say that. But they literally had their championship yanked away from them by a team that is a division rival, you know, and had to basically beat them with 11 players out. So they have nursed that grudge hardcore. I'm aware of this personally because I actually asked on the Philadelphia subreddit, starting off by saying, I come in peace. You know, what is your perspective? Is this something that you guys, you know, do you still carry hate on that? Or is it more at this point about being in first place? You know, what's more important to you? I'm still being downvoted now for my very existence. I checked it again this morning. The people are still finding me and downvoting me. I think if NYC
2 days later, you're still getting hate.
I think honestly, you know, my karma rating on Reddit right now is about 26,000. I think if NYCFC had lost that game, my karma rating would probably be about 12 at this point. I think everybody would be downvoting out of pure spite.
Look, as a Philadelphia now, I don't think as a Philadelphia immigrant to Philly, not only do they love their teams, but they hate their rivals. Last year, when the Cowboys were playing the Redskins and the Cowboys winning, put the Eagles' chances of making the playoffs back into their own hands. People are calling up the radio station, rooting for the football team to beat the Cowboys. I'm like, that's just they're our rivals. They must not lose the playoff. Meet them there and beat them because you got to get to the So, and that's why I say to have the rival move right up 90 miles away and be a real vicious rivalry, and then to have 10 million New Yorkers break that down to whatever percent actually follow soccer, hate them back. Create that Boston-New York rivalry, that Dallas-Philly rivalry in a sport is going to bring eyes to the sport. Just like I said, the Yankees and the haters hating the Yankees will bring eyes to baseball.
And to add to that point, you tell me that Apple isn't looking at this and thinking, okay, how can we milk this? You know that they are going to run with this. And you know they're going to take this thing to a brand new level.
Yeah, the quotes from Coach Jim Curtin after the game were also touching on that as well, where he said, "I would put our training staff against anybody in the league. They look like a bunch of MMA fighters." And he thanked the fan support, you know, and said that it's good that it's that there's something that. Going to a Union game is something to do, and it's popular with kids, especially. You know, you see a lot of young kids at these games. You know, so that is good for growing the sport.
Let me give you a good example on that. I went and met up with Tom and Amber Carwack. Tom was the F1 guy that we had on here. His son is a hardcore Union fan. The game hadn't even started yet, and he was booing the Union. This is an adorable, amazing little 9-year-old autistic kid, and he bleeds Union. You know, and he had the jersey, he had everything. You know, and ironically enough, his little under 10 developmental league, his team is called the Union too, which is by coincidence. And he's delightful. He's delighted as hell. because it is his favorite team by far. And to see that kind of excitement at that age, that the sport is going to grow in popularity when you got kids like that. And I'm not going to lie, you have Apple TV milking the snot out of a rivalry like this for the ratings.
It's also a far better stadium experience.
Yes. Oh boy.
With the live game experience for soccer is so much different than baseball.
Tell me basically what you felt physically when that second goal was scored by Philly.
With the second game, the game-winning goal, you really could feel we were in the press box on the third level, so we had the suite level between us and the main stands. You could still feel you really could feel the vibration of the crowd under.
Oh yeah, you got goals at your game. Oh man, I'm jealous.
He got. Listen, he saw 3 goals happen. Include But dude, that's the same thing that I felt last year in the Eastern Conference Finals when Philly got that first goal. You physically feel the floor shaking. It's that fired up. And that's what happens when you have 18,000 plus in a stadium that only houses like 21. When you have 18,000 in a stadium like Yankee Stadium, where you have 47,000 that you can house, it has so much less energy. When you have these international things, these friendlies against like foreign countries, where the fans come in from those countries, then it has more energy. But I mean, at Yankee Stadium, it doesn't have that vibe. At Citi Field, it doesn't have that vibe because there's too many stands. And people have way too much space to work with, and it mutes out the sound.
Any crowd can look small when it's in a space that is too big for it.
Yeah. But that's we're looking at possibly something, delightfully dark in the future. But all right, so cool. So we got ourselves about 8 minutes left, whatever it's going to be at this point. Want to turn this over a little bit. I know, Obi, you wanted to talk a little baseball, so I want to just let you roll with whatever you had in mind. It's all you.
No, we've covered my baseball thing. My baseball thing was all about how this weekend the Yankees of Houston and everything. So my baseball, I apologize. I know you're looking for filler, but
no, actually, I don't really look for filler. I just basically thought that I didn't realize you'd already covered that.
You covered me.
Well,
I apologize. I didn't look for filler, everybody.
I have a point I would like to address to you. So
please.
The Mets have just last week and then tonight engaged, and they do this with the Yankees, these stupid measly 2-game series that they have 2 of throughout the year. I don't even look at that as a series. Like, yes, the Mets just lost the 2 games to the Astros before, but then I was like, then you hear, they lost the series. Well, I was like, it's 2 games. Like, it didn't even feel like a series, considering they're playing tonight and tomorrow. It's just, I don't think these 2 games things should be considered a series. But hey, and the Astros jumping the Mets in the power rankings, that is upsetting. But we get revenge tonight and tomorrow, so it's all good.
So, all right. So basically, we're sitting here behind the scenes trying to figure out what we're going to do for the last 5 to 6 minutes. JD, we never got your take on Kyrie. I'm going to let you roll with this. Actually, Kyrie and also the Avalanche, because that was your idea. So if you want, take us home, sir.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the Avalanche. It was clear that Tampa was tired towards the end of this series, and while there were a few questionable calls, and most notably the end of Game 4, where a too many men on the ice penalty was missed. And oddly enough, in Game 6, where another too many men penalty was missed, but I understand why they didn't call it, because it was a player's skate broke and couldn't get off soon enough. So I understand that one. I'm not saying that it's tainted, but just that was the big news item from those games. But this definitely had a changing of the guard feel to it, because Colorado has been building this for a while. With McKinnon and Landeskog and building around them. I know that I've been dumping on Darcy Kemper for most of the playoffs, but he got it done in the last few games when they needed it to. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good from a goaltending standpoint, and that definitely helped the Avalanche. And just it was the last few games were lower scoring once both goalies and defense got settled in. So Vasilevsky just ran out of gas towards the end for the Lightning. And just throughout this series, it was definitely looked like all of the extra games over the past few years for Tampa Bay had started to add up. But Colorado won it handily, even despite the few questionable calls. They absolutely put their stamp on this series from the beginning, and they rolled with it.
Nice. All right. So congratulations to them in this case. Their first Stanley Cup, I think, was 2001 when they beat the Devils back.
They beat the Devils in 2001, yes.
The Devils should have taken that series anyway. They blew it, but that's another thing entirely. All right. Yeah. So a couple minutes left. You know, like I said, we started at the top of this, but you weren't able to come on at that point. So Kyrie gets paid. JD Walker's take. Go.
Well, he opted in for, I believe the number was $36 million. Mm-hmm. I think was the opt-in number. I'm sure it's because he was sources throughout the league made it very clear that nobody was signing him for more than that. Especially with the cap crunch, trying to do a sign-in trade is only viable if the teams actually want to do it. So opting in actually is better from the Nets standpoint because it makes them easier to trade. So Kyrie's taking the money. He opted in for this season because he realized that there isn't a big contract paying, which is both good and bad. The Nets now either need to trade him or somehow figure out a way to build around a truly dysfunctional core. Durant, Simmons, and Kyrie are the building blocks of a team that is supposed to be a championship contender again, allegedly. Good luck with that. Getting even two of them on the floor at the same time, let alone all three, it has been an uphill battle to say the least. You can't be a championship contender if your big three aren't even showing up.
No, that combination is like building the straw house in Three Little Pigs, and the wolf comes and just blows that down. Like it's not surviving anything. They don't even have a forward on the team that's not named Kevin Durant. They have so many issues. The Nets, top to bottom. I would hate to be a Nets fan.
Yeah, I just don't see how this is viable. But it both helps and hurts the Nets. With him opting in for another season because they have this cap hit and now really can't sign any supplemental pieces. Because I believe they're pretty close to the cap with what they have on the books already. But also having only that 1 year makes Kyrie easier to trade if they can find another team stupid enough to take him. And they'll probably need to throw in extra draft picks as sweetener with Kyrie in order to do so, which sets back the Nets.
Those picks they got from Philly.
Yep.
But look, yeah, if they might find somebody who's looking to take a cap hit this year and get some picks and do well, especially. But in that case, if they're trading picks, it means either Philadelphia is doing horrible or they're doing horrible. In which case, why would they want to get rid of those picks? They might as well just take Kyrie the whole season. There is the possibility, though, if all three of those guys play, right? That's going to be the tantalizing thing. If all three of those guys, just like we've had for the last 2 years, if all three can be on the court at the same time, Simmons
can show up at all.
Right. If all three can even show up, but yes.
Yeah, when hell freezes over.
Basically.
So
tantalizing. It's just tantalizing. Get the marketers out there.
Right, so they can lose in the second round because Ben Simmons won't take a layup. Kyrie is out because some car accident happened 3 towns over, and Kevin Durant's 5 for 21 from 3 or from the field. So not looking good for the Nets.
This is looking like a trade that nobody won.
But the Nets, put the fun in dysfunction. Anyway, we got to wrap this up. Thank you, Obi. Fantastic. Thank you, Brandon. Fantastic. JD, thank you. Fantastic as well. I'm Scott Churchson. Tonight, 7 p.m., Tales from the Film Set. We're breaking down a couple of different things. The second half of Stranger Things Season 4, and also the social activist that I met last week that managed to shut down the production that I was physically on because he failed to move. He refused to move. So we're going to talk a little bit about that one, which is interesting. Anyway, until then, have a great day. Stay awesome.